مش واصل، ما بتوقع بعد. بدنا نبلش ولا بعد؟ طيب نحن مش واصل مصوت.
معطين حدا ولا خلص؟
اسمع أنا مش واصل.
طيب خلينا نبدأ بشغلتين. أول شيء رح نبدأ بدقيقة صمت لروح الشهيد الصحفي خالد الخطيب، عفوا. الكل بيعرف قصته. وضعنا قصته على فيسبوك قبل ما جيتوا. حسب الأخبار، حسب المعلومات، قتل وهو عم يغطي بميدان العمل الحرب بسوريا. خالد كان رح يكون موجود وقعد معكم اليوم. للأسف الحروب اللي عم نجربها كلنا بمجتمعاتنا بدولنا العربية عطفت حياته، منعته انه يشارك معنا، انه نتعرف عليه. حسب المعلومات اللي نعرفها انه خالد كان حابب يطور مهاراته الاعلاميه والصحفيه وبعدين يصير اكاديمي، وكان مهتم كثير بالتربيه الاعلاميه. فهو ليس بس فقط شهيد صحافي بل كمان شهيد التربيه الاعلاميه. فنبدا بلحظه وضعيه صمت. دقيقة صمت، نعمل دقيقة غضب. في عندنا زميلي مشاركة من فلسطين، دعاء نصار، خطط الحواجز الإسرائيلية، خطط الحدود الأردنية، وصلت بيروت، بالمطار رجعوا على الأردن وعلى فلسطين. للأسف كل سنة بنجابه هذه المشاكل. السنة الماضية واللي قبلها في أساتذة كمان يردون لسبب أو لآخر. للأسف إنه هودي المشاركين والمشاركات أخواتنا وأخواننا يمكن بيقدروا يروحوا على أوروبا وعلى أمريكا، لكن دولنا العربية بتركنا على حدود ممكن يشاركوا معنا. ما بعرف كيف نقف دقيقة غضب نكسر الدنيا أو بدأت فينا نعمل شيء. حاولنا لكن للأسف ما قدرنا نعمل شيء. طيب نرجع على موضوع التربية الإعلامية وعلى أهداف. رح أحكي لدقائق عن ليش نحن موجودين هون. شو هدفنا كأكاديمية، شو هدفنا كصبايا وشباب رجال ونساء جايين من جميع أنحاء العالم العربي، حتى مشاركين من جميع أنحاء العالم لأول مرة السنة. بس نوضح شو أهدافنا وكنكون كلنا على نفس الصفحة. لكن بدي بلش بالسؤال، شو هي التربية الإعلامية؟ الكل قري المواد اللي بعطينا لكم إياها ما هيك؟ شفت شي 3-4 عم بيقول يمكن بحب يجاوب. شو هي التربية الإعلامية؟ خلينا نعطيك الميكروفون. مايك.
تمام. مرحبا كمان مرة، كربل معكم. لحد هلا ما في أي تعريف للتربية الإعلامية، وخاصة إنه زي ما أنت حكيت قبل شوي equipment are more than people. اليوم العالم الرقمي أصبح متوسع فينا ومتغلغل بطريقة ما ممكن نعرفها، بس أنا ككربل إذا اليوم بدي أعرف التربية الإعلامية ممكن إني أحكي هو نظام ممكن الإنسان يوضع حتى ينظم استخدامه للإعلام والوسائل الإعلامية والتكنولوجية اللي بتساعد يوصل لأي رسالة معينة للجمهور أو للناس. صباح سعادة مجددا. أهلا فريال. أولا أنا سعيدة أني شفتك أخيرا أستاذ بعد ما تابعت فيديوهاتك ومداخلاتك عبر الشبكة. كما قالت زميلتي كارمن، مفهوم التربية الإعلامية مفهوم جدلي ومتطور. أنت في محاضرتك العام الماضي قلت أنه سنة 1992 لما كان الإعلام التقليدي هو المسيطر، كان تعريف التربية الإعلامية مرتبطا بتعليم الفرد ليصبح قادرا على الوصول والتحليل وتقويم المنتوج الإعلامي وبذلك المساهمة في بنائه. لكن بعد سنوات أصبح المفهوم المرتبط بالتربية الإعلامية واللصيق به هو التمكين الشخصي. كيف نعطي للفرد ونعلمه أدوات تمكنه من فهم ما الذي يحدث أمامه، كيف يستخدم الأداة بطريقة نقدية وينتج المنتوج.
في حدا بعد بيحب يقدم طرح أو فكرة مختلفة ما هي التربية الإعلامية؟
Any other ideas on what media literacy is?
بس تضيف انه هو استثمار الواعي بوسائل الاعلام بانواعها
aware or conscious investment of media tools. It differs from time to time, from a region to another, and from one individual to another.
تفضل. في زميلي هنا. تفضل بقى.
صباح الخير، يشرفنا ان نلتقي مع استاذنا ومع زملاء التربية الإعلامية ومهارة التعامل مع وسائل الإعلام، يعني الصور والرموز والفيديوهات، كيف نتعامل، كيف ننمي عملية مو فقط تفكير الناقد، يعني هو الإنسان ممكن كيف نصحح، يعني اتهمته انه كيف نصحح المفاهيم، كيف نتعامل مع التبريد الإعلامي، وكيف نصل إلى عملية التقويم اللي بدأ من المعرفة والفهم للتركيب والتحرير. هذا شيء الإنسان إذا وصل لمرحلة التقويم عن طريق التربية الإعلامية قادر على ما بعد الخبر.
So that media could give info that go beyond statement of facts.
كل ما تم قيده حول موضوع التربية الإعلامية والرقمية، ممكن أن أقول أنه مجموعة من المهارات والقدرات التي تمكن الفرد من اجتناب الآثار السلبية لما يعرض من محتويات في وسائل الإعلام التقليدية وحتى الحديثة، وتمكنه من حسن الاستفادة من هذه الوسائل وحسن التعامل معها، وكيف يكون أيضا ناشط لا متلقي فقط.
And make the participants or the user not only receptive but also a beneficiary. We also need to distinguish between media and technology, because mixing those two aspects require utmost professionalism. Because digital technology in the Arab world is mixed with media literacy or media content. That's why we need to distinguish between the gray, the white, and the black areas of media and media information in a way that allows us to provide subjective or objective information.
بالتالي كمان مهم نعرف ازاي نعمل ادابتيشن للكونتنت بتاعنا في الديفرنت ميديا كونتنت. يعني احنا عندنا ادوات كتير.
بدي اياكي بس تبطئي شوي لانه في ترجمه مش تتكلم في الاسم.
ازاي نعمل ادابتيشن او تكييف للمحتوى.
I think we also need to think of how to adapt such skills to social media. There are videos, there are articles, and I need to be aware how to publish or how to present such tools on different platforms and how to convey the correct message to people and not suffice myself with delivery of random information, but to convey a message as a whole. ما نقدر نسمع شيء
يمكن اتى خطوه لورا.
هيدا اقوى شيء. لكن مدورين كذا
شويه حاجه تدور كمان خارج السر لانه انا بشوف انه كلمه الترم نفسه بتاع تربيه.
I think the word literacy or تربية in Arabic, as if we're educating people and forcing them or telling them how to deal with the media. So if I may disagree with you, I think that the word literacy or tarbiyah, I don't agree to that term. I think we need to be speaking of media awareness instead. So when we speak of how to use the media, we need to be aware of avoiding controlling the people or imposing a certain control over people. ما في أكثر من هيك. احكي بشرفك. UNESCO speaks of media literacy. The translators or the interpreters need to understand, so please either speak Arabic or English. كما كان يقول زميلي، فإن التربية الإعلامية والرقمية يمكن أن نتحدث عوضا عن ذلك عن الدراية الإعلامية، أي أن نستخدم كلمة awareness عوض كلمة تربية.
هلا منيح
أحسن شوي. Hey. If I may sum it up quickly. Individuals today are receptors and senders. And so we need to empower individuals to affect positively the others around them. I believe that media literacy is directing people towards certain information and to monitor them as they reach certain targets. 3 more comments or definitions. أعتقد أن التربية الإعلامية لا تتعلق وحسب بالصحفيين أو العاملين في حقل الإعلام وبالأنماط السائدة للقواعد والقوانين والأدوار، بل أيضا تطرح أسئلة عن كيفية إنشاء مضمون معين أو محتوى معين، أي علينا أن نأخذ بالاعتبار السياق الاجتماعي والسياق السياسي والسياق الذي يتم فيه صياغة هذه المعلومات وإنشاؤها. وهذا يعني أنه علينا أن نعتمد على المعلومات التي يزودنا بها زملاؤنا، ولكن علينا أيضا أن نستخدم التفكير النقدي تجاه هذه المعلومات. I think media literacy has an intellectual impact, as my colleagues suggested, given the difference in intellect and the way we approach media literacy. So how to approach chaos or how to approach information, because individuals no longer use media tools, and we need to account for the cultural context. A French researcher, Michel Desartou, says that the difference is not made by the media, because individuals now are receivers and senders, and they negotiate with the media on what to accept and what to reject. Thank you.
Thank you.
When it comes to journalism, I think we ought to preserve the media ethics. Regardless of the tools I have and the path forward, we always need to preserve our media ethics and journalistic ethics. Countries that witness wars or natural disasters enlist people to train the citizens on civil defense, on first aid. I believe that this group and MD Lab participants in past years should have the same goal, to train other people when we speak of sectarianism, of hatred, of propaganda in the region, are as dangerous as natural disasters or biological and chemical weapons. The media is a powerful tool and is a powerful weapon. And so we ought to protect the society and the community from hatred, from sectarianism, and from the intent to kill people because they share different views or different ideas. And so we need to spread awareness by regulating such and organizing such workshops and sessions, and therefore we could avoid catastrophes that our Arab society is currently witness. Our experience in Iraq, and you perhaps here in Lebanon, you saw the role of media and the lack of control that on media and the impact it can cause. We've been witnessing catastrophic results in Iraq, and so we need to have a sort of defense system that should include media and digital literacy. Thank you for all your valuable input. It is of paramount importance to understand that your opinion matters, your definitions matter, and it is the foundation upon which the next few weeks or the next 2 weeks will be built. Please don't call me Dr. Jad or Professor Jad, just call me Jad. As Lubna said, we're not here to impose our ideas and our concepts. We have experts from across the globe, top media literacy experts, and they're here to share their views and opinions and experience and research with you, ones that they've conducted over years, and I will be giving my own input as well. The essence of this academy is to hear your voice, and that once you go back to your community, you would be convinced of what media literacy is. You can define it the way you want it. That's not a problem at all. However, we want you to own such initiative and to go back to your societies and institutions to be able to spread such education or such awareness or culture. This is the objective of the Academy, and you can basically forget about all the presentations that you will see. However, you must always remember that regardless of the topic or the opinions, it is your opinion that matters above all. You are expected to give the presentations, to share your opinions, to teach in your schools, in your institutions, and in your communities. Not everyone here are professors. We have students, we have journalists and activists. And so media literacy is not exclusive to schools and universities. It is applicable everywhere across the community. And so I urge you to voice your opinion in the next week. Sometimes you will reject some of the ideas or some of the opinions. My colleague, Paul Mihaides, will define media literacy according to several states and how it is taught in different universities and the underlying philosophy of media literacy. And he will have another presentation tomorrow where he will do some critical thinking and revise the input he made 10 years ago. So when we speak of ISIS or elections in the States or in Europe, we've discovered that we've been missing a lot in media literacy, and we're still conducting, or we're still thinking about ways to build media awareness in community. And these are the communities in which you live, so no one can impose their ideas upon you. Perhaps in Europe or in the States they have a certain definition, but you are more aware of your community than anyone else. You are aware of your villages, of your towns, of your schools and universities. You have the most valuable expertise needed to build media awareness that will benefit eventually the community. That said, let's start with a historical background. Media literacy started in the 60s as an academic movement. Even the software doesn't really encourage using the Arabic language. Movies in the 70s spread in Europe and in the States, and people were afraid or concerned vis-a-vis the effect television and movies could have on their children. And so there was an academic campaign to train people or to make them aware of TV and movies. And then we started having internet, we had the digital revolution, the mobile, we had regional and universal revolutions. Some people have even connected digital revolution to their own national revolutions. And then also terrorism and other international matters were connected to that. And so that academic movement has crossed a long path since the 60s. Have you ever heard of the Grand Wall Declaration in 1982? A meeting for 22 countries in Germany where they launched a set of concepts for media education. The term media education was used back then. And you can see that the concerns they addressed are the same nowadays, if not exacerbated. The document starts with, "We live in a world where media are omnipresent," in 1982. Those who were born before 1982, we had the Israeli invasion, there were dictatorships in the Arab world, but what about the digital world? We did not have any smartphones, we did not even have any cell phones. We did not have internet, no TV station, or perhaps they would broadcast for 4 or 5 hours only. And so we live in a world where media are omnipresent. So imagine today the meaning of such sentence. In the Americas, in Europe, in most Asian countries, media literacy is now part of universities, even in Canada. Unfortunately, in the Arab world, and Arab countries were among the last countries to adopt media literacy for many reasons. Perhaps our countries are not ready yet. They do not wish to see the citizens have a critical thinking, and that's why states did not adopt media literacy. And until 2009, only 2 to 3 universities taught media literacy. Some universities would speak of media and society, but there was no focus on media literacy the way it is nowadays as an academic movement within the media. In 2011, we had a meeting in Beirut with many academics, with many media people, and they were impressed with media literacy that our communities could adopt, our universities could adopt. They helped us develop this idea, this initiative, and they shared with us information on the things we miss. We have no curricula in Arabic. We have no qualified teachers, no technology-oriented professors. Because we will be speaking also about media production and not only media consumption. And we believe that this is something that we could provide you with, and that's why you're here. This is the information provided by Arab professors through which, or that helped us establish the MD lab to help produce such tools, such materials, and that's why you're here with us today. So we started in 2013, and today in 2017, I think we've trained about 250 to 300 media people, academics, professors, activists, journalists, and media literacy trainees that are spreading this sort of education and this sort of literacy the way they see fit in their universities, in their communities, in their schools. To give you some additional ideas, why are we focusing on media literacy and why are we including it in the same program as digital literacy? To have critical thinking, to distinguish erroneous facts from true facts. We started with Salzburg Academy on Media Change. We started in 2004 with academics who are with us here today. Once they finish their work in Salzburg, they come to Beirut. They first meet in Salzburg with other teachers and students. They meet and they discuss, they develop media programs from the Americas, from China, from Europe, from across the globe. They're here to share their experience with us. I will give you a brief introduction of Salzburg's Academy.
How do I think the time is there? Do you guys have the long hand? Media is the only thing.
شو هذا بدك ترجمة؟ ترجمة؟
Everything that we know about the world that doesn't
ما بعرف شو ما بدك. It's up to you.
in your local community, in your country, around the world. So I think we have
أعتقد
no choice
أنه لا خيار لنا إلا أن نرى الإعلام كوسيلة للتغيير في هذا العالم. هل تعتقدون أن وسائل الإعلام قادرة على تغيير العالم؟ نعم. طبعا هي جزء لا يتجزأ من التغيير على الصعيد العالمي. هي وسيلة مثل أي وسيلة أخرى يمكن أن تطلع بنتائج إيجابية أو نتائج سلبية. في بعض حالات التنميط أو في بعض الثورات والحالات المأساوية للأسف بسبب الوضع في العالم العربي، نأمل أن تطلع الميديا أو تطلع وسائل الإعلام بالتغيير المطلوب. الأمثلة التي عرضها برنامج UNDP عن التغييرات الصغيرة من خلال وسائل الإعلام دليل بارز على صحة كلامنا. نحن أيضا نساعد الشباب العاطل عن العمل في البوسنة والهرسك لكي يتمكنوا من الالتحاق بالكليات المهنية مثلا، بالإضافة إلى مجموعة من الدروس في البوسنة والهرسك وفي كرواتيا، حيث وجدنا أنه ثمة فساد كبير في المواضيع التي يتم تناولها في الجامعات. ولهذا أطلقنا هذا البرنامج لكي يتحدث الناس مع بعضهم البعض ويخوضوا مناقشة فعالة. الأمر يتعلق بتغيير العالم وبالمخاطرة لدى اتخاذ القرار بتغيير العالم وأن نغير نظرتنا ومنظوراتنا إلى وسائل الإعلام والمضمون الذي تنشئه. ما الذي نريد أن نحققه في مجتمعاتنا، وكيف لوسائل الإعلام أن تؤثر على ذلك، والقدرات التي لدينا لها في التأثير على محيطنا. في بعض الأحيان مجرد قول الحقيقة قد يكون فعلا ثوريا في بعض الحالات. أنت عندما تعاين الرسالة أو عندما تعاين المضمون قد ترى هذه الأمور من منظور شخص واحد. علينا أيضا أن نطرح على أنفسنا هذا السؤال: ما هي الأمور التي نحاول أن نحلها؟ ما الذي يجري في العالم، في الأماكن العامة، في الحياة اليومية للناس، في علاقات الدول، في العلاقات الدولية، وفي الواقع اليومي؟ أعتقد أن من خلال هذه الأكاديمية قد أستطيع أن أنشئ شبكة لكي يضع فيها الناس أو يتشارك فيها الناس أفكارهم. ومن المهم أن يفهم الناس الطبيعة الاستثنائية لما فعلوه أو للنتاج الذي يخصصونه للعالم، والتغييرات التي يقدمون بها أو التي يستطيعون بها تغيير العالم بطرق مختلفة.
هيك مش كتير عم بفهم عليه، ليش هي بيضوي اخضر وهذا احمر؟
شو ما بعرف هيك بس انه
اكيد ماشي. لانه عم بيضوي الميوت عندك.
لا ما كان في وقت.
Now we know where we were. We were swimming in that pond. In one of the interviews, a woman said that media can be both the problem and the solution. This is something worth considering. So we cannot only look at media as a problem or as a negative. As you know, there are many problems with the media. However, how can we use it for the solution? This is our definition of the main aim of our academy, and it is very important for us to be on the same page. MD Lab in Beirut aims at promoting and empowering media and digital literacy in the Arab region by training a generation of academics, media students, and building modern media curricula that is deep-rooted in the Arab situation. Anyone can go to European universities and study media literacy. However, we brought specialists over here so that they can help you build your own definition and your own concept of media literacy. So I am not apologizing for the fact that we have lecturers from abroad. What we're saying is that we need your help. Once again, I am not apologizing for this. We want your help and your assistance. Media literacy in Lebanon and all of the Arab world cannot spread unless it is deep-rooted in the Arab reality. Otherwise, it would turn into one of many projects that were neglected and that were proposed in the past over the years and that were not applicable to our region. And for that, we see many graduates taking their degrees and going abroad to solve the problems of the world and not the Arab region. 5 years later, we have about 32 universities, which is excellent, truly. So 32 universities that teach media literacy in the Arab world. And we have many other organizations and many other individuals that teach media literacy with the material that they have. However, it is very important for this brand, for this name to become much more prominent in the Arab world so that masters and PhD students can build whole presentations and lectures on this very subject, and I want to see you 4 or 5 years from now giving lectures, so we wouldn't have to bring experts from abroad to talk about media literacy. I love you and I like the fact that you're here, but we want local leaders, we want local capacities from within our societies. We have much more work to do in our schools. Several schools in Lebanon, Qatar, and Jordan have begun to teach media literacy through several programs. However, there are the road ahead is very long, and for that it is very important for us to focus on schools. It is not enough for these students to receive such courses in universities exclusively. We have much work to do in this regard. The objective that we set out in 2013 is that by the end of this decade, so by 2020, our aim is for every Arab country to have at least one university providing media literacy courses, and I believe that we will achieve that before 2020. However, the overarching goal is for media literacy to not only be a course to be taught in universities or schools, but for it to become the very foundation of many other programs and curricula. Media and digital literacy can become the cornerstone of a number of programs and courses in many other fields. I'm talking about physics, maths, architecture. No specialization or major in the world today is devoid of any form of media, whether medicine, architecture, and many others. Communication has become an intrinsic part of each of these specializations, and for that we must push for this to happen. What is media literacy? One of the most prominent experts in media literacy, Henry Jenkins, who was with us last year, however, he could not be with us today for health reasons. A group of his students prepared a video so that they explained their perspective and their concept of media literacy. It is media education aimed at self and communal empowerment, and it is worth mentioning that we added the term communal. Our societies and communities are built on communalism and communal societies rather than individual philosophies or individualism, and for that we need a fresh perspective on media literacy.
Media literacy is a set of skills that everybody needs to deal with.
إننا نتحدث عن مجموعة من القدوات أو المهارات المطلوبة لكي نؤدي وظائفنا ومهماتنا بشكل فاعل اليوم في بيئة الإنترنت والهواتف المحمولة. كيف نتفاعل مع المعلومات والثقافات المختلفة، خاصة وأن الحياة باتت مختلفة بشكل جذري عما كانت عليه منذ 20 عاما. هناك أمور يجب أن نعرفها لكي نصبح فنانين مبدعين ومواطنين وعمال في المستقبل. في الماضي كانت التربية الإعلامية تتعلق بدفع مستهلكيها ومستخدميها للتفكير نقديا فيما يشاهدوه. كان عدد كبير من الأشخاص يتلقون رسائل إعلامية ينتجها عدد قليل جدا من الأشخاص، وهكذا عندما ننظر في هذه الظاهرة وتشعباتها على الحياة اليومية نرى أننا لم نعد مستهلكين فحسب، بل إن أصبحنا خالقين ومنتجين للمعلومات وللمنتجات الإعلامية وذلك من خلال وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. ولا شك في أن الإعلام اليوم بات يساهم بشكل فاعل في قولبة الروايات وتغييرها، والفضاء السبراني بات أكثر تفاعلية منذ أي وقت مضى. وهكذا يجب أن نطرح هذه الأسئلة على نفسنا: كيف نريد أن نشارك، وما هي المهارات التي نحتاجها؟ ما هي إذن أحد الأمثلة على هذه المهارات هو الحكم. يجب أن نكون قادرين على الحكم على المعلومات التي نجدها على الإنترنت، ما إذا هي موثوقة أم لا. وهناك مهارة أخرى وهي المفاوضة، كيفية التفاوض مع الآخرين والتفاعل معهم بطريقة بناءة. هناك مهارة أخرى وهي كيفية ملائمة هذه المعلومات مع حياتنا اليومية وكيفية تطبيقنا عليها. علينا أيضا أن نتمكن من التلاعب بهذه المعلومات والتحكم بها بشكل مناسب. وهناك عديد من المهارات الأخرى مثل الأداء وأداء المهمات المتعددة في الوقت نفسه. إذن هذه المهارات لا تقتصر على مكان العمل أو الدراسة، بل هي تتضمن التعبير المبدع والمواطنة، وهي تساهم في الربط فيما بين الأفراد لكي يشكلوا جماعة. إذن تقضي هذه بتشكيل اختصاصات ومهارات جديدة من أجل تعزيز حسنا المبتكر أو حس الابتكار لدينا. I get motivated every time I watch this video and I listen to the music. In 1992, in a meeting of media literacy experts in Aspen, the United States of America, a new definition was made, and that has become very prominent this day. This is a very basic, primitive definition relatively. However, it is sufficient to know that they at least made a definition for media literacy and that defined it for several decades. Media and digital literacy is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create media in a variety of forms. Every single word in this definition, especially access, analyze, evaluate, and create, is worth giving a lecture on, and every word in terms of definition has evolved greatly since 1992 and up until this day. For example, access. In 1992, access to information meant training students to go into libraries, to get newspapers, how to read magazines, and how to reach information, because we did not have such easy access to information, especially in conflict-ridden countries. After the digital revolution, the internet, and the advent of the modern mobile, after the fake news revolution, which I believe you are familiar with today, we have a very different interpretation of access. We have a ton of information, and the question today is how to access quality information that we can benefit from, and how to block out the noise of unimportant and useless information that is wasting our productivity and time. So the next question to be asked is, why media literacy today? You are all here for 2 weeks by virtue of a generous grant by our Norwegian friends. However, the question to be posed today is, why are we convinced in media literacy? This is not mere tourism that we came here for, correct? Media influences and surrounds every single part of our life. And if you do not believe that, just look at your family members, look at yourself, look at the mobile that has become attached at the hip, that wakes us up at night, that constantly distracts us from both our professional and familial life. Wherever we look today, we find a piece of technology or media information that is trying to draw our attention, whether publicity, advertisement, whether political rhetoric, an image, a soundbite, media, video, anything. For that, in today's world, it is necessary for us to raise our children from a very young age on media literacy so that they can survive in this environment. Looking at the 10 key skills for the future of work, we see that new media literacy is an important one. We're not only talking about having critical thinking and protecting ourselves, we're talking about finding work, and media literacy has become a necessary skill to do so. Naturally, There are other types of information that we can get from all sorts of organizations such as the United Nations and others, and I will be reading this in English. أن التربية الإعلامية والرقمية تعترف بالدور الأساسي الذي يؤديه الإعلام والفضاء الرقمي في حياتنا اليومية، وقد بات جزءا لا يتجزأ من حرية التعبير وتدفق المعلومات، وذلك لأنه يمكن المواطنين من فهم وظائف الإعلام، وبالتالي يساعدهم على تقييم هذه المعلومات الكامنة في الإعلام واتخاذ القرارات المناسبة كمتلقين ومنتجين للمعلومات والمنتجات الإعلامية. إذن قالوا إنه بات جزءا لا يتجزأ وبات يكمن في صميم حرية التعبير وتدفق المعلومات. A study conducted by our colleagues on revolutions and political participation found an apparent link between the level of media literacy and the level of political activism in all countries of the world. So this is not only related to social protection or employment. This is not limited to the freedom of expression or media freedom. This also extends to political activism and activity as well. There's a strong link between media literacy and all of these things that I just mentioned. Lastly, if you think that media is only wasting our time and we need to protect our children from the content, think harder, because there are true diseases stemming from media consumption, such as PTSD, obesity, الكآبة، التصرفات أو السلوكيات الخطرة، النشاط المفرط، التنمر السبراني، التقليل من شأن الذات، الأداء الضعيف في المدارس، وضعف الروابط العائلية والأسرية. There are many more, however they do not fit in these slides. So these are true diseases that are closely linked with the way we consume modern media. I will only take an additional 10 or 15 minutes of your time before we take the break. So let us talk about certain preliminary principles of media literacy, which I believe you're aware of and familiar with. So just a quick reminder. The first principle is that all media messages are constructions. What does that mean? I can take a soundbite, for example. Or for example, we can hear one answer. Please. I'm not sure I can answer this correctly. If you're not sure, maybe we can hear someone else. No, actually, I believe that what constructions means is that they are well planned and not spontaneous. Yes, potentially, possibly. So they include audio, written, visual, content. And there's the message that we want to convey. So a type of marketing or promotion for the idea. And they might include certain elements such as boosting or promotion on social media, such as Facebook or any other website or TV. So I believe that these pieces of media are 30-second videos or images that we can look at. One more answer. الأمر يتعلق بإعادة بناء الواقع إذا صح القول. Perhaps a simpler term would be a representation of reality or a reconstruction of reality. However, what does this mean? What does it mean to say all media messages are constructions? It means that they portray reality, as we say in Egyptian, that it is a concoction of medication that is put together to have a certain specific effect. with a certain quantity and quality to have, as I said, a certain effect. So as I said, it is a reconstruction of reality by putting together a number of frames and various types of content. This is a good idea. You likened it to medications or drugs. They include several components. Let us forget about video and text and think about one thing: image. Images are constructed, correct? One person decided to set up a camera to use a specific lens, zoom level, certain height. After taking the photo, he cropped it, he decided what to add, what to remove. Especially in media institutions, there's a group of people making these decisions, even down to the simplest details. Even the simplest forms of media are carefully constructed, and they are the result of a number of decisions made by a board or a group. Thus, we cannot say that media as is reflects reality. Even if individuals are not aware of making certain decisions, of influencing media, when taking a photo, they choose a specific angle and they crop it when they post it to social media. So all of this includes a series of decisions that impacted the act of receiving the included information. The second principle is that messages are representations, not reflections of reality. What does this mean? Let us listen to two answers, perhaps. ذلك يعتمد على فهم كل فرد لماهية هذا المحتوى، وبالتالي لا يعكس الفكرة ككل أو المفهوم ككل، بل يتعلق الأمر بتفسير كل فرد لهذا المحتوى. نعم، ذلك يتعلق بالمبدأ التالي. One more person. Naturally, they do not reflect reality because they are stemming from the institution of the media, and these media institutions always have ideas or principles to convey, and for that the media that they spread or that they diffuse reflect their own interpretation of reality. Can you give me an example? How can this image reconstruct reality or represent reality instead of reflecting it? For example, as owner of a media institution, I want to tell society that social media sites of all types are used to give opinions, for example. So perhaps I want to give a positive outlook of social media sites so that we get more followers on our Facebook page, for example. All right, we'll listen to one more answer from the colleague that has yet to speak. As our colleagues mentioned, it's about the message that we want to convey, which does not always reflect reality, but represents it. So I will give you an example of how we face Israeli propaganda, for example. Israeli media, for example, portrays Palestinians as people who cast the first stone or shoot the first bullet, and thus they are the instigators, which might not always be the case. Let me give you another example. I can take a group photo of participants here and publish it on a newspaper, and I can crop out the empty seats so that I can say that we had a full house. Or perhaps I want to send the photo to a conservative media institution, and I thus take a small and I crop out the female elements in this photo. Or for example, if I want to send it to an American media institution, I can only crop out or I can only include pictures of non-nationals or people who are here from abroad. So I choose the image that would represent the reality I want, knowing that here we are part of one reality. I can take the photo of 1 or 4 to 5 people. So this is an example of how media or media messages represent but do not reflect. So messages have economic, political, cultural, and technological dimensions, etc. There are other elements, and this is the foundation of critical thinking. When someone asks you what is critical thinking, this is the answer. Any media, any type of media that you look at has an economic aspect. Is the photo that I took aimed at conveying the idea that MD Lab in Beirut is very active and successful and this can help us draw more grants or financing? So this is the economic aspect. It also has a political aspect. Does this photo express motivation or incitement towards revolution or any democratic rhetoric? We can caption this photo accordingly. There's also a cultural aspect to it. Does it reflect a conservative community, a liberal, a revolutionary society? Does it reflect a certain religion, a certain culture? Every photo, every video, and every message that you send has a technological dimension. We all know the limitations of media messages. We can write as many words as we want. If we include it in newspapers, they become relatively limited. However, on the internet, they are unlimited. Photos usually convey much more information than texts. Videos have other limitations. There is constant motion in videos and there is a certain production that comes into place. So every media message has many of these dimensions and many others that are not listed here. Next, individuals interpret messages differently. One of your colleagues just mentioned that. Can someone give me an example? I believe someone in the back wanted to talk. Once again, individuals interpret messages differently. So if I show you the photo that I took, wouldn't it be interpreted by everyone identically? Why not? I believe that this depends on the cultural background that each individual comes from, because each individual reflects or interprets this image based on what they know. For example, if I see an image of a protest, I might see certain elements that others don't. So perhaps I can judge people in this photo from my perspective and from my preconceptions. Can you give me an example of a photo that you judge differently from others? There's a very famous photo from the Vietnam War with a person pointing a gun. And some people view that as very barbaric, others see it as very artistic, especially that this gun is pointed at a child. Some people even believe the soldier to be the victim because they are subject to pressure. And they are forced to be part of this image and to point this gun. This interpretation can have ideological or political dimensions. For example, certain news agencies use different terminology for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Some use occupation, others settlement, etc. Can you give me an example? For example, in Egypt, if someone from the Islamic movement says that a protest protest took place by representatives of this movement, many other news agencies say, for example, that these were terrorists. There was a terrorist protest organized by this Islamic movement. So it is a rather different interpretation of reality. For example, the Syrian or Palestinian crisis was interpreted differently by many news agencies, and we are facing this problem in Palestine. Even within the same country, we're seeing different interpretations of the same event. The martyrs that we are seeing every day, for example, if someone commits suicide on an Israeli checkpoint, many news agencies believe this to be an act of courage. However, abroad, many news agencies believe this to be terrorism. So our work is to try to rectify the interpretation of this situation, and media institutions are playing a vital role in this process, especially that every different party has different affiliations, and Israeli media, for example, is completely unreliable, and they are very technologically and electronically savvy, which helps them formulate their messages and propaganda how they want. What you're saying is built on the fact that there is one reality, and this brings us back to the first principle. All of media messages are constructions, and thus they do not reflect reality but merely represent it. So regardless of how much you try to rectify, it will be interpreted differently. People might perceive certain individuals as freedom fighters, martyrs, or terrorists, and if you're trying to read a certain message or text, you might interpret it differently from others, and this will not change. We have different cultural, educational backgrounds and a different set of information from one person to another. For example, we saw in the news Lebanese army and Hezbollah fighting ISIS in northeast Lebanon. Some people interpreted this as a Sunni-Shia war. This was the first interpretation. Other people considered that the legitimate, the formal Lebanese army is fighting with assistance from Hezbollah. So we have a plethora of interpretations that all go back to the third principle, that there are political dimensions. Those who do not like Hezbollah will interpret this message in a way, and vice versa. Those who like ISIS will interpret it differently. Even within the same country, within the same region, within the same culture, and even household, we have different interpretations of the same reality. And this is at the heart of media literacy. We need to understand that people interpret media differently. In the video that I showed from Salzburg Academy, we saw people from all parts of the world. In the coming week, we will be broadcasting a video on the Holocaust, the Nazi Holocaust. And one of the most tense and controversial discussions will take place right then, because some people will consider that this Holocaust led to the death of millions of Jews, of communists, etc. And on the other hand, we will have our participants saying, why aren't we talking about Palestine and how Israel used similar tactics against Palestinians? So we have people from two different worlds watching these videos and interpreting them differently. And thus we have two different opinions trying to understand and accept one another. So our objective as people who were trained on media is to help other people interpret this image in a number of ways. So we're not here to correct or rectify. You are more empowered when you understand other people's interpretations of media messages. And this is our mission, to help people understand that every image will be explained and interpreted differently. If we want to convey a specific message and we can understand how people can understand it and the ways they interpret it, our message will be more effective, and hopefully it will be positive, not negative.
Media are not monolithic or independent from society. الإعلام ليس فكرة متجانسة وليس مستقل عن المجتمع. كلنا نغلط بهذا الموضوع.
We all misunderstand this. We claim that media is what is not. You are the media. You are the staff working in media outlets. Those media outlets are controlled by political parties. There are pressures on individuals, on people, on companies, on institutions, on the society itself. Media is not far from, or is not outside society. It is part of that society, and it reflects society and individual problems, and those problems exist even in the media world. So if we go back to the second idea about representations and reflections, what is reflected in media is the social problems, discrimination, racism, sectarianism. These all are inherent aspects of society, and they are reflected in media. So this goes to show that we could have an evolved or a developed critical thinking of media and how to use it to solve problems. Ergo MedLab. We will now have a video with a brief introduction of MedLab. قد ايه كان صار لك مطفي؟
ما أنجل like 20 seconds.
We live in a world where we are surrounded at every moment by media. Our ideas of the world are shaped by media, and we in turn shape media because we have access to more communication capacity than ever before.
Lab is a critical initiative. It's teaching the teachers how to teach their students to understand the news that they're getting.
I think Lab is important because in the current climate, everybody needs to be able to understand how media operates.
الكاست فيرست ستورم او كاست ستورم هذه قوية.
عزوقك
انت كافية يعني
نعم يلا علي عم بيفيدوني بشي هالكتابات
كتابات بالببلية شو بكره هودي الصفات يلي
This opened my eye to look at the world in a larger angle, not just in where I come from.
الأدوات الرقمية كانت جدا مهمة لإكمال المواد النظرية التي تطرح في الأكاديمية للطلبة.
I think it's a very important initiative, and it also kind of allows us to pass on and share the knowledge that we are generating and working with at the university.
At this point, it's probably more important than ever that any lab be at the center of people engaging with these tools. So the more you can build capacity in teaching and learning about media, the more that places like Beirut and surrounding areas will be able to effectively function in the world.
الأكاديمية ادتني نظرة جديدة أشوف بيها كل حاجة بشكل مختلف.
الأسبوعين اللي قضيناهم في أكاديمية التربية الإعلامية في بيروت يمكن من أكثر المراحل في حياتي الأكاديمية قراءة.
People from across the Arab world are coming together to look for common ground, to see how, through working together, we can create a media literate citizenry. And the spirit of optimism and hopefulness that is embedded in this conference is contagious and exciting, and I'm delighted to be a part of it.
شو بترجم؟ ما مترجمين؟ Thank you. Before we take a break, I'd like to thank the Norwegian Embassy for funding this project and other donors who've helped us in previous years. The main donation came through the Norwegian Embassy this year, meaning accommodation, travel expenses, catering, and so on and so forth is provided by the funding provided by the Norwegian Embassy. Every year we will focus on the importance of receiving donations from foreign parties without having any requirement on how to use that donation, and even the Norwegian Embassy did that, and they asked for the program and they said just send us the agenda and we'll see if we can make it. And before we take a break, I'd like to remind you, look around you. People from Arab states, from non-Arab states, different dialects, different religions, different confessions, different denominations, different ideas, different backgrounds, different goals, different objectives. Journalists, media people, professors, academics, students. Have an open mind. Be comfortable. We're not here to impose ideas upon you. You might reject some of them. You might disagree with us. You will see some of the photos, some of the presentations, some of the ideas that your culture, your personal or societal culture and background might not accept. But there's always the golden rule, and that is the respect of others. Whomever that other person may be they from a different denomination or who have a different cultural background or think differently from a different country, please have an open mind. For the next 2 weeks, and then once you go back to your societies, it's up to you to decide how to deal with this information and with those ideas. We will be discussing some sensitive ideas and some sensitive topics for some of you, but we're not imposing on you such ideas. You have the liberty of speech, you have the critical thinking ability that we encourage, so we'd like to hear your feedback and to participate in discussions. But please respect one another. Do not insult the others just because you don't approve with them. So unfortunately in Lebanon we have no electricity, we have no water, no infrastructure, no state whatsoever. Are we going live? But we still have the liberty of speech. We can say what we think, no one is imposing their ideas upon us. And so please value that. Some people have skills that exceed the skills of the academics and professors themselves. So you can talk to Lubna or any of the trainers and offer help if you think you could give a valuable input. But if we're presenting some ideas that you're aware of, please don't go out and be patient. Also, with regards to accommodation, yes, we have a definite budget, despite the fact that the Norwegian Embassy gave a very generous donation. And so we have a limited budget, and that's why you have shared rooms. Please forgive us. If we could have individual rooms or castles for each and every one of you, then we would have done that. So please be patient and forgive us for any delays or mistakes that are only human. Do you have any questions before we take a break? Thank you. I hope this introductory session was beneficial, and we hope that the next 2 weeks will be also beneficial, and then we will resume with Dr. Paul. ما تصير بتوقع